You're much in the same way. You're doing that from Brazil. You've been there for a while.
Yeah.
You have a family and you're doing some things there.
Yeah.
Talk about a little bit about your business and how you arrived in Brazil to do business right now. So I'm sure there's a story behind that.
There's a few stories behind that. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a few stories behind that, but there's some main, as with any story, there's main factors and then there's little subplots. I'll go with the main plot.
Let's start with the main ones, and then we can branch off to the little sidebars.
Okay, yeah. So one of the major plot is that I met my wife. She is a carioca, which is somebody who is native to Rio de Janeiro. They're called cariocas, and so she lived in. She brought up in Rio and Sao Paulo, and then she'd been living in. I met her in London. She'd been living there for, in the end, it was 15 years. She was living in London.
Oh wow!
So I met her there, and then we got married. And as I had a relationship with her, obviously we would come back here to Rio for the family and the friends in Sao Paulo, and I experienced Brazil. And I fell in love, particularly with Rio de Janeiro, which is where we live now. The first time I got here, I remember looking around going, how can I live here? What can I do? I remember even just getting the newspaper and looking like, what kind of, because at the time I was, it was back in 2010, I was a co-founder of an agency, and we were doing quite a lot of branded promotional campaigns at the time.
Right.
Kind of getting, it was like branded editorial using the competition. That's how we kind of set off the agency, and that's where the beginning of the agency journey started. So I would literally, I was in Rio looking at the local newspapers going, do they do competitions? Do they give away stuff? Do they do that here? So that was the first time I landed. So
that's so fascinating, because we relocate and we keep the same mindset as we had in the last thing that we were doing, right? So it's a little more difficult to imagine forward what potentially is out there. You know, it's like cutting brush for the first time on a trail. Right?
Yeah, you automatically go for what you know, don't you? And see if that square fits in that round peg hole. Like, can I do that here?
Yeah. And can I just keep doing what I was doing and make it work here?
That would be so easy, right? Just plug into Brazil and off we go. But like, but that kind of discipline of marketing, the promotional competition-based kind of editorial PR in physical newspapers and on English websites, there's not as much of a need for that now. Here we are in 2019, almost 2020. But also another difference was, even back in 2010, when that work was getting a lot of revenue for my agency in the UK, different cultures interact with brands giving away stuff differently. So the German population, they kind of don't really dig. I've done competitions out there where we've done the same competition with a brand that was giving stuff away in the UK and in Germany, because they're on both supermarket shelves. And the culture of Germany is kind of like, I'm not really interested in that. Whereas the UK population is like, oh, yes. It's interesting.
Give it to me.
Give it to me.
That's so funny. That's so funny, because that's much like, what we're dealing with now in social media and the culture around the world is every platform has its own personality. It's very similar, and it releases and removes the geographic boundaries. However, it doesn't necessarily change the cultural impact that and how we're using a platform like Instagram or TikTok or LinkedIn or Facebook. They're all different, right?
Yeah.
So why are not, cultural differences are always in place, regardless of where we go.
Always, yeah. So I did a project. It's almost a couple of years ago now. It was one of the first projects I did for my consultancy as I stepped out. And that's what I'm doing now here. I'm a freelance consultant, looking at social and digital marketing strategy mainly. And I was doing a piece of work, and it was based in Saudi Arabia. And I was just looking at the culture there of how they interact with the different platforms. And YouTube is huge there. And what I mean by that is YouTube, whereby people are having proper interactions, threads in the comments in the videos of YouTube, coming back here or going back to the UK is where I'm originally from, the way I interact with YouTube, I can't remember the last time I left a comment, and I certainly don't wake up in the morning and think, oh, I wonder what somebody said about my comment on YouTube, you know. But it's that big. And then again, in Japan, LinkedIn isn't really a thing. You kind of use Facebook for that, and Twitter is big, is really huge out there. Twitter's like,
it's interesting too, because India is actually, I think, the largest population on LinkedIn.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so it's amazing. It's amazing. Hey, I just want to give a shout out. Hey, Vicky's in the room. Jordan, Jeff, Angie, Sherry,
Jeff and Angie. Sorry, Sherry as well, right?
Yeah, Peter. I mean, the whole point of the pirate broadcast, and we talked about this before we jumped on, Matt, is the diversity in which we live in right now. You and I are very much alike in the respect of, we're working remotely, we're helping industry around the world, and we're bringing teams together when it's necessary to bring teams together.
Yes.
And now we have the, just like the garbage man outside coming by and picking up the trash. It's like,
but what's quite hilarious about what you just said, when I'm just thinking about it, is it's amazing how adaptive and how problems that we create change. So we're talking just before we went on air. Now, I've managed to set up a portfolio of clients that I love working with. I'm lucky enough to have done that remotely here from Rio, but they're all in UK, Europe, and a few in the US. So they're all English speakers. So then I'm like, well, all my clients speak English. They're all based in Europe and UK. So it's kind of a bummer because it's kind of stunting my my ability to learn Portuguese. I'd be much better at Portuguese if I didn't have this ease of connection.
Yeah, I didn't have all this work to do somewhere else, right?
Ridiculous. That's a true situation that I'm in, where I'm complaining about not complaining, but I'm using the ultra connectivity of work that I'm doing, because I'm working with clients. Like, I'm working with a client in Barcelona. I've never met them in the flesh. It's all chats like this, and then exchanging information, G drives, emails.
Yeah, I told a story a while ago that I did a website for a client over Instagram DM.
I love that.
That's probably the wildest story ever. But it's like the whole communication was over Instagram DM.
That's just recently happened to me. So I have an influencer, or an influencer stroke affiliate who I'm working with, who's a top dude for one of my brands. He's a great guy. He's a creator on Instagram. He posts a lot of stuff, vulnerable stuff, just his life, and it works. Yeah. And if you want to contact him if you want to discuss work and stuff, it's Instagram DM, or no email.
It's not LinkedIn, it's not email, it's not anything else. It's Instagram DM.
Yeah, and at first you're like, this dude only does Instagram DM. But then after a couple of times, you're like, yeah, that's the dude that only does Instagram DM. Fine. Which is actually better than some people. Like, I have friends who will message me on WhatsApp and then respond to it on Facebook Messenger. Then there's some that still use SMS, and it's like,
yeah.
You have it like,
it's like, I just need one place, right? I just need one place.
Yeah.
This is brilliant. I love the fact. I mean, I'm sure that if we talk, and continue to talk, we'll probably end up doing a project together of some sort. So it's one of those things that, I'm like yourself, I'm curious about a lot of different things and how the interaction is. And, living in Brazil and not being, absolutely fluent in Portuguese, is it difficult and challenging to work locally? I mean, go out and market and get around, or is it fairly simple? Is it easy? Is it
no
experience?
So business. I've just recently won my first local Brazilian client, which is X-Divers, X-Divers, who are an amazing scuba diving school based in Rio, based in a really cool area of Rio called Leblon. So that's my first real local proper client win. But if I'm honest, a lot of that was to do with the fact that the crew over there, they're all really good at English. So I'm not going to like sit here and go, yeah, I won my first client because my Portuguese improved so much. So no, so it is possible.
Mm-hmm.
Really, it's the day-to-day challenges for me. And what I've noticed is this: I'm surrounded by, I'm lucky enough to be surrounded by an amazing family who are all bilingual.
Yeah.
So they speak English and they speak Portuguese. So again, this is another excuse that I can use, and that when I walk into a room, my family just switch to English. So, but when I'm out on my own, so when I go out, when I'm collecting the groceries, when I'm doing the day-to-day stuff, or if I go out and find somewhere nice to do some remote working, that's when the pressure's on. And when you are in a situation of pressure, your brain just goes for it, because you either, fight or flight, you either freeze. And I've noticed that my Portuguese is much better if I've had a couple of beers or if I'm on my own out and about, because
then you're more dependent on it.
Yeah, it's like I need
survival mode.
Groceries I need to get on that bus. I'm not going to call my wife and go, can you pick me up? And I have to buy a bunch of tomatoes. I'm a loser. I mean, that'd be quite funny.
That would be quite funny. That's so funny. So it's amazing. And the reason I want to talk about this and bring it up is the fact that, we get comfortable in our own environment, and we limit our own ability to adapt and see things and change our perspective as a result of being in our own groove until it becomes a rut, right? So moving from London to Rio de Janeiro.
Yeah, that's it.
It's I know they say Rio.
That's what you're thinking about. Yeah.
Yeah, they are. So it's a big cultural change as well as, the perspective on the culture, the people, the language, everything about it. So it's, it is disruptive.
Yeah.
On purpose. And also it sounds like you've adapted and you've gone through and you've, discovered a process that works for you. So what do you recommend for others that are maybe considering a change, or, the digital nomad thing is, I have a love-hate relationship with it, because every time I travel, it's like I miss my studio. I miss my setup. I miss my environment, because I got everything set up the way I want it.
You like everything set the way you want. Okay.
Yeah. So working in a coffee shop is sometimes distracting to me. It's not that I can't do it. It's just a level of comfort there that kind of, it just seems, it's not exactly how I had imagined. It's not this adventure kind of thing, because I've traveled so much over the years. It's more like, okay, here I am doing this thing here. So
okay, yeah,
I'm sure you can appreciate that. So
yeah. The thing is the remote working. Even when I lived in London, and I was part of the co-founder senior team of an agency. Even then, though, I noticed how much more productive I was when I worked remotely, or when I worked from home, as they call it.
Yeah.
So if I had a day where I was working from home, the team knew I was working from home, coffee shop, I would get so much more work done. It was incredible. I would get lots done. So my to-do list, my mind map of stuff, would get lots of highlighter pens all over it. Feel pretty smug at the end of the day.
Right.
Pint tastes better. Jog in the park would taste better. When you go to the office, as soon as you walk through the door, it's like, hey, how's it going? Oh, right. What did you do at the weekend? Oh, actually, can you come and look at this? Have you seen what Jeff did over there?
Distraction.
Like, yeah, many times I would go into the office and leave and feel like, the list of things to do was more. I got nothing done. So
yeah,
I personally have that kind of, I really like and get more done remotely. And that could be because of my background. So when I left university when I was a young'un, I went straight into pharmaceutical sales. And pharmaceutical sales is very lonely. It's field sales. So you get given a nice phone.
Yeah.
And you get given a nice laptop, and you get given a nice car. And then it's up to you. Go off and create your diary. Go and make sales. Go and build relationships.
Yeah.
And That's a really lonely job. So I think that must have had an effect on me and made me more able and more resilient to going off and doing work on my own. I think some people don't like it. Some people need the banter. They need to ask Cheryl what she did at the weekend. They need to tell Jeff that they went paddleboarding in the Arctic or whatever they're doing.
Mine is more around, because I've worked remote for at least 10 years now. And it's more about the environment that I'm working in rather than because I work alone 95% of the time.
Yeah.
But it's the environment. It's just itself. It's the casual, the chair that I'm sitting in, or the people that, happen to be in the coffee shop or something like that.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about what you see in marketing and media going forward, now that you have an international flair and you're doing branding and some other projects, like you mentioned the scuba guy, the training company. How is marketing forever and ever? And is it the same in your experience so far? And do we see more of this? And how do you see it evolving or changing in the messaging with all the social platforms? We were talking about, the short, minuscule visual storytelling of TikTok versus long form on YouTube. It's quite diverse. And so a lot of different people are being pulled by these different interests. And what's your experience? Because I'm kind of curious to see what an international flair adds to the equation.
I don't think apart from the cultural differences between the people that are observing content and buying stuff, marketing itself, it's not changed really. It's just there's more options. So it shouldn't, and people get distracted by new things, and that's natural. And there's lots of experienced old timers, like professors in marketing, that get annoyed by that. They get annoyed by the world of marketing, diving into VR, diving into AR, diving into, and I understand that, yes. And it's just human nature, though, when TikTok comes along. I discovered it last year when my niece was using it. And I'm like, what? And so I started doing a few TikTok videos. They're pretty horrendous, but I got myself a TikTok account.
Yeah, those up right now on screen.
There's one of me doing some sort of like dance wearing like kitchen gloves. It's super embarrassing, but I mainly was doing it to embarrass my niece, because she's like, dude, you shouldn't be on TikTok. And I started trying to do stuff and all that. So that was just for Christmas. But going back to the point, the multitude of new channels is a good thing, but it depends on your budget. How available is your product? What's the positioning of your brand? People think of your brand. Do a little bit of insights. Think about how much advertising budget you've got, because it's totally different. If you're a Mars bar, then Mars bar, your mental availability and physical availability of a Mars bar, you won't have to go very far. You and I could probably walk. I'm in Rio. Or let's use a can of Coke. It's an even better example. I haven't had a Mars bar for ages. They're gross. So a can of Coke. I can walk not very far to where I'm sat right now in Rio and buy a can of Coke. It's physically very available. Mm-hmm. So I mean, that kind of brand, nothing's really changed for them. They just have to make sure that it's mentally available and physically available, and just tell people they exist with their massive budgets.
Right.
Stick to the huge, the huge eyeballs and awareness that comes with TV and the traditional forms. But then they can A/B test across the new, and not that new anymore, apart from TikTok, the new social platforms. But what it's done is it's the new social platforms and all the new channels. The positive thing that's done is for smaller brands who, in the 1980s, even the 1990s, wouldn't have stood a chance. It wouldn't have had the budget to get on TV. Probably wouldn't have been able to do some local PR.
Back when there were three, 4 channels in billboard radio. That's it.
Didn't stand a chance. But these guys now can have a voice and can target and can be creative without spending tons of money, and and they can get awareness and they can get reach, which you need reach so that people can see who you are. There's no point creating something amazing and then not distributing it. It's because that's a lot of small brands still do. I call that burying it in the garden. So a lot of brands will create an amazing, like we've spent all our entire year's budget on this amazing, fun, creative video. Yeah, it's really cool. And then they just upload it to YouTube and go.
Yeah, it's like creating a website and not sharing it with anyone.
Yeah, you might put it on a USB stick, go to the bottom of your garden, get a little.
Looking at your phone and saying,
bury it.
Bury it. It's not working.
The same amount of people will see that video buried in your garden as people that bumping into it organically on YouTube.
And Vicky says, yeah, a lot of people have SOS, shiny object syndrome. Yes. Fiverr, love the technology it brings us together. What our geography is not necessarily the limiting factor anymore. This brings up a good point, because I see a lot more, and I'm really a fan of, storytelling as a journey for a client experience. And I think that lends itself to smaller budgets. If you can't be on every billboard, every bus side, every, page in the magazine insert, every, commercial on the radio station, every place, everywhere, all the time. And I mean, I don't know how much Coke spends on their budget for Mindshare. However, I know it's in the B for billions.
Yeah.
And it's such an impact because it's everywhere. And for a small business owner, a boutique, store shopping a product, they can grow a massive market with very little mind share in the overall global market, and have an amazing impact on the market using these tools. And a few, I think, not necessarily the single video, although, Harmon Brothers that do the, potty, the poopy potty, or the,
oh my God,
those viral videos, those guys, I mean, that's their whole business, is creating viral videos that create impact. So storytelling has a place. And I'm just kind of curious if that's came into your world and how you're using that.
Yeah, storytelling is awesome, and especially if it comes from, if the story is about a human and a human's vulnerability and a human's journey, overcoming obstacles, and then despite being knocked down and having problems, overcoming them, and then ultimately doing well and moving on. That kind of story. Or any kind of story that involves a human and evokes emotion is going to resonate with people, because we're built. In fact, one of the things that separates us from the other primates is that we're obsessed with stories. We're obsessed with storytelling. One of the theories by Yuval Harari in not Homo Deus, Homo Sapiens, he talks about the cognitive revolution, where he says the thing that the other primates was that we were able to talk about stories and bring in things that didn't exist, and that would bind people, bind groups, because they would tell the story. So then you have a very powerful group of not very physically strong beings, but they could overcome the other stronger primates, gorillas. They could overcome anything in their path, which is what they've done, which is why we're sat here today.
Right.
And one of the theories, because we're obsessed with storytelling, and that storytelling would bind people across geographical distances. The example that he uses is Lion Man, which is the first evidence of abstract art. So it's the body of a man, and it's got a lion's head. It doesn't exist in the real world.
Yeah.
Humans, through storytelling, created it. And so, it's a massively powerful thing, because it's in here.
Yeah, it is. And it connects us to each other as well, because then we can craft a story that produces imagination. It creates this imagination. and allows us to like drop into Rio de Janeiro and start a new business. So, so Matt, that I just love, and I could talk another hour or two on storytelling and the development of stories and things like that. So
we can. I told you, I've got admin to do that I don't want to do. So the longer I can like delay the admin, the better. So crack on.
yeah.
Sorry,
I wish I had that schedule right now. So it's like, it's not the case. Hey, Sherry wants to, or Vicky, no, it's Vicky wants to know what services do each of us offer. So I'll let you have at it. So what services do you offer now to your international clients?
Oh, you want me to go first? Okay.
Go first.
So, I mean, this is quite funny because I was talking to a client about this the other day. So if you go to my website, I'm like, I do marketing, I do new business, I do creative, and I also do creative practice. So there's all these things which you can't help yourself but doing. But really what the majority of my work is helping brands with their marketing strategy. So I'll put together a strategy for brands, or it could be agencies who are working with brands. I put together a strategy where we look at brand, what people are saying about it, what the competitors doing. So lots of insights. Look at the positioning of the brand, see if that needs to be refreshed. From that, come up with an overarching strategy based on what their objectives are. So in 10 years, we want to be bigger than Coke. It's quite a big. So then that looks at the situation. Are there any, what the competitors are doing? Is there anything we can do differently? What's your overall strategy? Right, so this is the plan. And then from that, which are campaigns or brand activations that link into that strategy, that bring that strategy to life. And then I deliver that to the clients, and they either invite me to execute that and help them implement it, or they go, thanks, Matt, and they run off and implement it. So in reality, that's most of the stuff that I'm doing. But the creative in the business, actually, it's still there, because the new business is I'm finding clients because I have experience in new business skill sets, finding clients. And then the creative side's there because I come up with a strategy, but then you have to come up with ideas that bring that strategy to life. So together, I have a very experienced marketer. A lot of marketers, a lot of people, and it's natural, will just be like, okay, they'll nod, and in their head, that's boring. But then, when you give them the juicy campaigns that link in, this is why we're going to do this campaign, and that's why we're going to do a slow motion video here, and that's why we do a storytelling about, and then they're like, oh, I get it. And then that's what I love doing. That's what I do. That was not an elevator pitch, unless I'm on the Empire State Building.
That's okay. That's the whole point of the pirate broadcast is we're not working with the rules here. We're working outside the rules. So, and it's much the same as what I do. You know, I've been in, I started in advertising in '85. So a few days ago, I started in advertising, and, you know, business and creative and, you know, sales, and I have a lot of experience. So helping companies bring strategy together and then bringing teams together to implement that strategy. So it's the long and the short story. My passion and my goal is content creation, you know, highlighting people doing incredible things. You know, my whole goal is there's a reason we're all here. We all have a gift to share. And I really believe that, you know, a lot of people are hesitant to share their gift and really share their message and be authentic. And you mentioned it earlier in storytelling. Authenticity is key. And once you release the ego and the judgment and the shame and all of that stuff, the story can really unfold in a powerful way. And so if you can work on removing all of the outside voices and all the inside voices in your head and just get to the point, it's really an amazing adventure. So that's what I love to do is help people get there. So it's
a really
amazing.
Key point, because something that I'm doing as well, which I've just come up naturally, is I'm helping people with particularly with their LinkedIn profile. I've done for personal branding as well. So I've done a few CEOs where I've looked at their entire social map, like they're on Twitter, they're on LinkedIn, they're on Instagram, and advised them and done an audit and given them a content strategy off the back of that. But mainly I'm doing a lot of LinkedIn audits and content strategies and for people. And there's so many people that are so experienced and so cool and have got so much to say, but they're just at that, they just can't make that first step off the precipice into doing. They're just procrastinating like a stuck CD. Like, I'm going to.
Well, it's like the plumber's sink always leaks, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm doing it for someone else. I just can't take the time to do it for myself.
But it's not just that. It comes down to fear, and also thinking like they're showing off, and how will people judge them, and what will people say?
Yeah, what will people say it's almost like bragging, right? If they tell their story and what they really do and what they're really powerful at, they feel like they're I know I do. You know, imposter syndrome kicks in, and it's like holy cow. I've been doing this a long time. I've got a lot of experience that is incredibly valuable, and somebody could use that experience. However, it's like, okay, well, I'll just do this little thing over here and just, I'll just keep doing this. So, and I can appreciate that. So
a lot of people get their opinions because, you've got experience. And you've probably got some opinions about what you think is right or wrong from that experience.
Sure.
That's your opinion. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with sharing that. Other people might not agree with your opinion. If you're okay to say, this is my opinion, would welcome other opinions.
Oh, absolutely.
That helps a lot as well. But I find that some people find that the tough obstacle to get over, the fact that somebody's going to judge what they're saying, and maybe they're completely wrong and they're going to get trolled. So there was this guy who told me once, it was the best bit of advice I ever got with regards to putting yourself out there, particularly on LinkedIn. He said, if you put something out on LinkedIn and somebody disagrees with you, you've won, you've done it, that's it. You've reached nirvana. Well done, congratulations, you've made it. And what do you mean? It's like, well, that's it. You've created a discussion. People are caring about what you're saying. You're having an impact. And actually, I still go with that, and it really helped me. And the other thing is, if somebody trolls you on, let's use LinkedIn still as an example. If somebody trolls you, and what I mean is they're like, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about, mate, and they're not really giving a constructive, fair, empathetic argument. They're just being a bit. They're just not very nice. You've done it. You've made it. You've got a troll. Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's it. You need to wear a badge. Like, I've made it.
I've been trolled.
I've been trolled. That's it. I'm part of an elite.
That's our tagline. I've been trolled, but not controlled. Right?
Wow. There we go. You see, that's what ad experience from 1985 gets you. In the moment strap lines like that. Come on.
Good stuff. So I just want to thank everybody for being here. This has been awesome, Matt, Vicky, Brenda, Sherry, Angie, Jordan, Jeff, just so many wonderful people joining into the Pirate Broadcast every morning. And if you don't have the opportunity to join live and experience Matt at his finest, go back to russjohns.com, and where I publish all of these, the podcast, the broadcast, the transcript that, as we mentioned yesterday, isn't always 100%. So Jeff, I know you're there. So it's like, we continue to improve, right, Mac? We just have to work on it and continue to improve. In fact, my son pointed out to me that I had a typo on my LinkedIn profile. So it's like, holy cow. I am human. I am human. So there you go. And so when we catch you again, I could send people to LinkedIn, Matt, catch up with you. That's probably another good place. I know you have a website somewhere else. I should have shared it.
I can share it in the comments my website, but it's just it's not that exciting, but it's MW
Yeah.
W.
Yeah.
And my Twitter is quite fun as well, Matt W. Webster.
Matt W. Webster. So go track Matt down and, you know, get involved and engaged. LinkedIn is all about community, and what we're doing here is about identifying and discovering unique individuals doing interesting things. And it's an amazing time in history because we have the ability to cross geographic boundaries, go all the way to Brazil, have a coffee with Matt today, and actually engage with people all over the world and discover things about others that we would never have known otherwise.
Love it.
And Matt's actually a pirate. He did some shenanigans in his younger 20s. We cannot disclose whether alcohol was involved or was not involved. However, it's a fun story for another day. So we'll have you back, Matt, to dig deeper into that one. But we'll leave you with that. And we have John Asperian tomorrow. So come back tomorrow, Friday, for John. He's an amazing individual back in the UK, actually. He's a copywriter. So, Matt, you may want to enjoy that episode and come back and do Q&A. Might be someone else you could add to your network of connections, collaborators. So
definitely.
Thank you, everybody. Have a fabulous day. Kindness is cool. Smiles are free. And you enjoy the day.